Welcome back. I'm sitting down with Dr. Paul Krugman and Arundhati Bhattacharya on the sidelines of the 4th State Bank of India Banking and Economics Conclave. I want to shift away from India to some of the global developments, and I think Mr. Trump has given all of us lots to talk and write about, and you've been writing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a trade war?
I think it hangs very much in the balance. I mean, on the one hand, you have Trump himself is very much a protectionist. It's clear that his instincts are that he thinks of world trade as winners and losers, and you know, as long as the U.S. is running deficits, he wants to do stuff. And he also, according to news reports, he feels that, or he and the people around him think that this will please his base, because everything else he does is just standard issue Republican. But this, you know, those working class voters who thought they were going to get something from him. On the other hand, if he does, he would create an enormous amount of trouble for U.S. business. And I don't, you know, he doesn't care what I say. He doesn't care what economists say. When the CEOs of major automobile manufacturers, when the CEOs of the electronics industry, when they come in and say, look, Mr. President, we are now inextricably embedded in global value chains. Actually, they won't say that. They'll find some way to say that in shorter words that he might understand. But when they say that we have a lot of money invested in a global economy, and if you disrupt that, things could be really bad, that might deter him. I don't know. It would be interesting. The immediate flashpoint appears to be steel. That's
sure.
And you know, we have a history. Just 15 years ago, the Bush administration imposed steel tariffs and got an object lesson in how hard it is to do that. They discovered that the European Union in particular can retaliate very effectively, but I doubt that anybody in this administration knows about that history. So we'll see. And of course, I actually think, and this now let me just say, I'm not speaking completely without expertise, but I think that the fact that Mr. Trump is under so besieged that everything is going wrong probably makes it more likely that he will lash out on trade simply as a way to assert himself, to claim that he's showing some kind of leadership.
What should we be prepared for, ma'am, and how, maybe?
I think, you know, if you look at India, first and foremost, I think we have a very large consumer base within India itself. I don't think we've done enough to look at that properly. We still import many things which can actually be made in India itself, and at far lower costs. So we do need to look at that. And of course, as for global value chains, I think we are still a very marginal player. We do very much need to improve our presence there. In fact, in the conclave, as you know, we are having the Minister of Commerce, and tomorrow again we are having a whole panel on this. I think we need to do a number of things in order to improve our ability to participate and compete globally. And that has to do with a lot of bringing in FDI in the right areas, improvement of quality, improvement of logistics.
Sure.
So lots of things actually that we need to do.
Sure. So do you think, Mr. Trump, and you sort of ended the last answer by saying that you think that he is going to lash out in some way, right?
I think in
a dramatic way on trade, especially.
I think he will try to create headlines by doing something. Now, it might be that his advisors will find a way for him to do things that look like large actions to the American public, but that are in fact viewed as relatively harmless by our trading partners. I think that's the optimistic scenario, that he will be able to announce, I have renegotiated NAFTA, and I've got and in fact, nothing substantive has occurred. But I would put maybe even odds that something really serious does happen. And we have an international system that was built up with great care, and but it's fragile. Much more so than people realize. It depends upon large players understanding that part of their role is to uphold the system, and that means the United States and the European Union. It depends upon and the public. What I think the great revelation of recent political developments, both in the United States and in Europe, has been that the public support for this whole world that we've built, the world that the elite built, is very, very shallow. And it's remarkably easy to completely, a political, and this is the common thread that links what might otherwise seem to be very different things. Right-wing victories in some places, surprising left-wing strength in others. What it turns out is that the general public just doesn't buy into all of this stuff. And it's, in many cases, the general public is wrong. I have to say this, the comments that it, but that's not helpful, really. The point is that, so we could see an unraveling of trade relations, quite possibly.
Possibly this is an indicator of a lack of inclusive growth. That is something I think we need to, there is a basic problem there, which we probably are not addressing in the right way.
Well, that's certainly one of the things. And that's what I do. I mean, where I now sit at the Stone Center for the Study of Socioeconomic Inequality at the City University of New York. And we, certainly growth has not been inclusive. Now, unfortunately, I suspect also that there are more, they put it this way, that even policies that try to make growth more inclusive may not win you political support because all of this populist uprising is mixed in with racial, ethnic, cultural concerns. So it's just very, we don't know. I mean, we're very much cliche, but we're in uncharted territory. So
I want to ask you when is the next crisis question before we wrap up this interview, if you allow me, ma'am. So are we, we've had this long stretch of at least financial markets doing very well. Do you think it's going to last, or you think there's a turn coming?
Well, okay. No one ever gets that right. Anyone who, there were some people who predicted the last crisis. They also predicted 5 other crises that didn't happen, right? So this is always a problem. No, I do think that the markets are much too relaxed. The markets are acting as if there is zero chance of the multiple catastrophes that seem possible happening. And certainly the U.S., we are very close to serious political constitutional crisis, and that cannot leave the markets unaffected. So there has to be, there seems to be a lot of risk that's not being factored into asset prices.
Dr. Krugman, thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate you joining in. Ma'am, thank you indeed for taking the time out and making this possible. Thanks indeed, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.